So we are officially live. Hello, 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 community, and welcome back to another candid, crucial community conversation. And I'm gonna be honest. I am just super excited to be back. It seems like we haven't been on for a couple of weeks. However, of course, we know our scheduling has changed because the city council meets on Mondays. So we are actually going to be live on Sunday, this Sunday, and next Sunday for our mayor candidates. That form is next Sunday. But tonight, we're not going to wait. We're going to get right into tonight's discussion. I'm super excited to have Mr. Chad Malkus here, who's running for Ward 5. He's actually running unopposed. And tonight from Ward 1, we do have Ms. Sharon Smith and Mr. Brian Roche. Unfortunately, about an hour before tonight's platform, Mr. Tom Briley, he did send me a message and informed that he could not be with us. But we are not going to, of course, cancel the entire broadcast because we could not have one candidate with us tonight. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And at this time, I'm actually going to allow our panelists, the candidates that are running for these amazing awards in the city of Cambridge, to introduce themselves. So we'll actually start with Ms. Sharon Smith.
And how much time do I have?
So we're going to do 3 minutes or less.
Okay, so I can make my opening remarks. Thank you. I'm Sharon Smith. I'm running for City Council in Ward 1. When I moved to Cambridge 11 years ago, I was excited by the possibilities. I have a boat, and here's this lovely waterfront with all these maritime facilities. There's a deep maritime heritage, and there's a beautiful restored historic district, or partially restored historic district. The Hyatt had been here for a couple of years, and we'd started seeing more traffic downtown, so we had new shops and new restaurants opening. And I thought I was getting in on the ground floor of a town that was about to flourish. 11 years later, not enough has changed, and the responsibility for growth or lack of growth rests with the city council. We need to change the city council's focus and the way it operates. And I have experience as a manager and a management consultant in helping that happen. Our council has no sense of urgency. They let things happen rather than make things happen. They're reactive rather than proactive. They spend their time managing the city operations when that's what we have a city manager for. Rather, they should be leading us to reach our full potential as a city. And it's obvious that the city council and the mayor don't have a shared vision of what where the city should be headed. If they did, you wouldn't have the divisiveness that exists on the council right now. You wouldn't have all the split 3-2 votes and so forth. There's a lack of agreement on where the city should head and how to get there. That fundamental agreement, a shared vision, is the foundation for all the decision making that comes after it. It helps you set priorities. It helps you make decisions on what things to do first, second, and third. It tells you where to spend your money, where to put your people, and so forth. I have experience and knowledge in helping organizations function at a strategic level, and with the support of the public and with cooperation from the other city council members and the mayor, I think I could help make that happen. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sharon, for your introduction and opening remarks. At this time, we'll go to Mr. Brian Roche, from also candidate running in Ward 1 district as well.
Yeah, first off, Shay, thank you so much for having us. This is amazing to be able to get the word out in so many different ways, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on here. So my name is Brian Roche, and I'm running for position of Ward 1 City Council as well. My position will be just one of 5 votes on the City Council. So what's important about that is that it needs to be filled with someone that is proven that they can find common ground with 4 other council members to accomplish the goals of the city. There's a lot of nonprofits, the state and federal government, citizen advocates, things that all come in front of the council, and to be able to build rapport with those people and actually have the ability to bring everyone together to move forward and accomplish goals is critical in that role. So over the last 15 years, I've had such success in accomplishing a number of the goals, mostly of the comprehensive plan, which is what the citizens of the city have said they want this city to look like over the last 10 years. A lot of times we don't look at that plan, we don't refer to it as a council. I'm not on council yet, but my role as a community leader, I have read those plans, and it's important to me that particularly walking the neighborhoods and talking to people, that a lot of what has been identified by the neighbors and the people in the ward and throughout the city are things that have already been documented as things that we want to accomplish. So I've proven that I can accomplish these types of things. I was instrumental in getting Maryland Avenue redone, which is a primary gateway to the city. Most recently, I've worked with organizations to get the parking lot by the Blackwater Bakery redone, which was identified as a connection to connect Pine Street, the historically Black neighborhood, to the Cambridge Creek, which was a big deal, something that was identified in the precursor to the comprehensive plan. There's also the Harriet Tubman mural there, so to kind of push those types of agendas, I've had success with in ways that I can help. So also I've put in bike lanes and racks. I built a citywide fiber network that has interconnected the city with high-speed internet and connectivity. And now I'm really at a point where I would just like to take a lot of these initiatives, and there are some things that you can only get accomplished when you're actually a voting member of council. So I'm prepared to take the next step, which is to be elected to city leadership. The council I'll serve on will be transparent, financially responsible, which is critical in these times of tight budgets after the pandemic, accessible, accountable, and even in our new world of virtual meetings and remote engagement, I'm very capable of doing that. So it would be an honor to represent the citizens of Ward 1 in Cambridge on the council. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Roche. And as we are going through tonight's discussion, if you're not speaking, if you could just mute yourself. At this time, Mr. Malkus from Ward 5.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Shay. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. So Chad Malkus, I was born and raised here in Dorchester County, went to Cambridge South Dorchester High School. Following graduation, I attended Clemson University and then the University of Baltimore School of Law, where I concentrated in real estate, land use, and business organizations relating to zoning. And moved back to the shore, and I've basically spent the better part of my adult and professional life both working as an attorney here in the county, as well as working with as many different nonprofits and organizations that help to really move Cambridge forward as best they can. It's been a very long journey, and we have worked very hard within the community with a lot of the different organizations that I've worked with, that I've been a part of. I'm part of Sail Winds Incorporated, which we'll probably talk a little bit more about, which still maintains and oversees the vision for the waterfront right there in my ward. And I've worked and was president of Cambridge Main Street, what is now known as downtown Cambridge. I was a board member and then president for many years. Actually worked with my good friend Brian Roche on developing and soliciting businesses to have the first downtown completely free Wi-Fi network in our historic downtown, and that was something we were very proud of. We leveraged business owners to do that. I've done other things such as for the past almost 20 years now. I've been the founder and organizer of the Sail Winds Park Kite Festival, which it's coming up October 18th. We're actually allowed to do that in the time of COVID, and really about the furtherance of bringing people to Cambridge, showcasing our amazing assets, and really my whole reason for deciding to finally run after working sort of behind the scenes within the community was that I got tired of hearing the word potential about Cambridge. I know we have potential. We have great potential here in the city, but it's time to move from potential to reality. We have a lot of important decisions coming up over the next 4 to 5 years. relating to the waterfront, relating to the packing house, relating to our housing here in the city, relating to revitalizing and continuing the revitalization of our historic downtown. You know, COVID has hit many businesses hard, and so we want to do everything possible as a city to support that. I also want to make sure that we support the an enhanced relationship between the city and the county, that we are not duplicating services, and that we can make sure that we have, as several have mentioned, a very transparent budget process, that we empower the city manager to make decisions, and that the council is a guiding light, to make the big picture decisions and to give guidance to the rest of the city. My experience on many different boards and committees has taught me that micromanaging is not the way to run a city. I think we have definitely done that in the past as a council, and that's something I would definitely like to move away from, and to really empower the people that work for the city to do their jobs and to make a better city. And I appreciate the opportunity to serve Ward 5. I know I'm running unopposed, but I want to meet and hear from as many people in my ward as possible. I've been trying to get out there and talk to as many of them as possible. And this is a very important election for those reasons. So thank you again, Shay, for letting us all talk here today.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. Definitely see you have some protection over there. It sounds like a dog or something.
Oh, that's not me.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. But
sorry.
Nappers is behind me, so they're finishing a concert there tonight. So
Oh, okay.
I'll definitely mute when I'm not talking. So
all right. So I'll be honest. I got to tell you that I'm just excited that you all have accepted the invitation to come on. It's very important and near and dear to my heart that community understands, you know, of course, as they are voting, as they are actually engaging in different city conversations with the city and things like that, that they are informed about who they're voting for and exactly what's going on with the city. So even though we are having these conversations now, it is my desire, it's my hope and every intention to continue to have these conversations about what's going on with the city, even after election. I will say that this particular platform is not to endorse one candidate over another, but this platform is merely to just provide the space for candidates to express their intentions, to express their interests, as well as their plans as it relates to them actually being voted into office for city council. I will say we have Miss Ashley Blake watching. She says, good evening. I'm excited for this. So I'm excited that, you know, our community is actually showing up. They're engaged in a conversation. Miss Williams says, I'm here. Good evening. We did receive a lot of questions from the community, a lot of questions specifically in Ward 5, a few for the forum in general, but I will say, Mr. Malkus, from me having these conversations, Ward 5 actually poured out their remarks. They poured out questions. So I'm not going to be very specific as to Ward 5 tonight, because we want to be mindful to hear about how each individual, as it relates that will be elected into city council, how you'll work together to move the city of Cambridge forward in all wards, in all areas of the city. So I guess, you know, many of you have already kind of spoke to the question, why are you running for city council, right? We've heard the potential. Now we want the potential to become our reality. You spoke to various skill sets that you have. So I guess the next question that has been submitted, what is the biggest challenge that your ward faces now, and what can be done to fix it? Well, I guess for me, I would want to reword this question and ask you, what is the biggest challenge that you believe that your ward faces now, and what can be done? What is it that you plan to do to address some of these challenges? And I guess we'll start with Ward 5, Mr. Malkus.
Thank you again. So it's wonderful that my Ward 5 constituents have a lot of great questions, and I appreciate the opportunity to answer them. A lot of their questions are, as I cited earlier, related to our amazing waterfront, because that is situated in our ward. The hospital is leaving, and that is something, as I mentioned, I had been part of the original vision for Sailwinds. I've been on the Sailwinds board for about 20 years. We have worked as a nonprofit to provide a lot of things to the community. We were instrumental in getting the Burger King property purchased, conveying that to the city. Now, where the wonderful African American mural is there on our gateway entering into the town, and that was all in the furtherance of providing a gateway into what we are looking to market as a waterfront development area. And the Cambridge Waterfront Development Initiative is something that is what you would really call a quasi-governmental organization, basically, because it's formed with members appointed by the city council. Our board with Sailwinds appointed some members, assigned some members to that, and they've been working in conjunction with the city and the state to look at all possibilities there for the waterfront. There's some really exciting potential for that, and a lot of areas that I think can work in conjunction with other things that we're looking about. Many people have had concerns about Governor's Hall and that sort of thing. What's going to happen if Governor's Hall leaves? Well, we have an excellent opportunity actually with the packing house. The redevelopment of the packing house is going to have some massive space in there where we can have very much very similar functions as were used in Governor's Hall, those sort of large scale functions. But we also are going to keep a lot of open space. That's part of the plans there. And we want to put our best foot forward with that waterfront. So we really need to take very, very careful look and examination at what is coming to our waterfront. And we spent a lot of time. Many of us worked very hard over many years, and we received a lot of public input as to how we wanted that waterfront to look. And most of it came down to lots of potential for mixed use development with shopping, restaurants, potentially a boutique hotel, and other aspects for that waterfront that could really benefit the city of Cambridge. So obviously that's a huge issue facing our ward, facing Ward 5, but it's really a Cambridge issue. And I don't like to, I don't want to ever differentiate and say, well, that's my ward, that's my issue. And that is an issue that is crucial to Cambridge, as I'm sure both the Ward 1 candidates would definitely agree. So that's something we all have to look at in detail.
Thank you, Mr. Malkus. That's definitely one of the concerns in some of the questions that I did receive. They're asking in the comments, where is Mr. Tom Bradley? As I stated previously, Bradley, he actually sent a text message to me an hour before this broadcast kickoff and said, due to unforeseen circumstances, he could not join us tonight. So he is not going to be with us tonight. So now we'll go to Miss Sharon.
I know that currently what the city and CWDI are talking about is an MOU for the city to transfer ownership of the property to CWDI, which apparently would make it easier for them to sell it to a developer. I'm not convinced that the city should sell the property in the first place. I'm not saying we should develop it ourselves. I think we made an attempt at that. But I think we should lease the property, and that's a win-win for a developer because they don't have to come up with the millions of dollars to buy it to get started. And it also gives the city a source of revenue for many, many years to come if we're getting lease payments from them. And it also allows us to exercise more control over its use. I think that what gets developed there should be maritime themed, nautically themed. I think a cornerstone of that could be the Richardson Maritime Museum. It's languished for a number of years, but it again has an awful lot of potential too. And I think the city could get more involved with the museum and help them get some grant funding and help them expand and realize their vision. They have a very clear vision of the kind of things they want to have there. I think it would be a wonderful gateway to the rest of the property. And we could home port tall ships. We could have other ships of interest like the John Brown. We could have some entertainment venues like the London Eye, which is a big Ferris wheel. We could have the Cambridge Eye. Or we could have a sea animal carousel, something that would attract young families and young children to want to experience Cambridge. And I think we have to be careful not to compete with the downtown realtors who have struggled and stuck with us for so many years. We need to make sure that we don't suck all the energy out of downtown with what we do with Sailwinds. And I think we need to look at our waterfront, not just as what's in Ward 5, but Ward 1 has the Great Marsh Park and we have Long Wharf. And I think, again, to look at things strategically, we should be looking at all of our waterfront and seeing if there's some synergies that can exist between them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sharon. Mr. Roche, at this time, the question, just to kind of bring us back, is the challenges. And I know, as Mr. Malkus, he stated, the waterfront development specifically is a concern, not just for Ward 5, but for the entire city. But in your opinion, what is one of the biggest challenges that you believe that your ward face, and what do you believe you can do to fix it?
Well, the good news is that all the wards share the same problem. The bad news is that we've been struggling with the same problem for about 50 years, and that is lack of investment in our neighborhoods and lack of investment in quality housing and quality of life. So there's a lot of initiatives, and Sailwinds and that gateway is just one piece of the pie that we are trying to get Cambridge, get positive investment and get families moving back here and getting investment in housing and getting the tax base raised so that we can invest in our schools, that we can invest in our streets, that we can invest in our downtown, et cetera, et cetera. So Sailwinds is critical. Also, the Sailwinds, there was a very distinct plan that both the state has very strict requirements on that property, as does the comprehensive plan, and the predecessor to that, the Waterfront 2020, public access to the waterfront. Everyone absolutely insists that waterfront remain open and accessible to the citizens of Cambridge forever, period. End of story. There is absolutely no possibility that can be gated off. The other piece that we need to emphasize is we have what are called comparative advantages in this city. We have things that we can only do here that cannot be done anywhere else as well. One of those is oyster aquaculture. Another one is the sheer quantity of water from our actually not just the river, but believe it or not, this city was built to accommodate about 40,000 people. Phillips Packing Company thrived, and actually the aquifers here, we have a tremendous amount of water. It was one of the things that made the Hyatt a possibility, is we could actually provide water and sewer to such a big facility. So things like RAR, the RAR Brewing, they're thriving because we have abundant water, we have abundant sewer, and that's a comparative advantage that they're taking advantage of. So they're a good possible tenant at Sailwinds, along with the maritime commercial component that Ms. Smith mentioned, capitalizing on the fact that we have a yacht maintenance business there that is doing well. It has a wonderful new owner that is invested in Cambridge, wants to expand, wants to do things like put a, not sure what the size is, so I'm not going to say, but I know it's a very large boat lift that the city is all for, and we should do everything in our power to take what is succeeding and help it succeed further. That means jobs. That means things that we can do that they can't do anywhere else on the shore. They can't do this in Easton. Only we can. This big boat lift. I mean, these are things that are going to bring jobs. They're going to bring investment. They're going to bring momentum. So All that said, the most successful places are places that do something called placemaking. That means that there's like no less than 8 things at a time going on at any location. That means in the morning, people are out there walking their dogs and checking out the waterfront. In the afternoon, people are showing up to go to work or to work on their boats and do things like that. In the evening, they're showing up at the expanded brewery there. And then as the night goes on, it might be a concert or something, but there always has to be something going on in that property. And the good news is the citizens said that's what they wanted. We just have to very closely follow that plan. We don't need to ask again. There's very little disagreement with what that property should look like. So we should be a little careful with just transferring over all control of the property. If something makes it easier to develop, all for it. But if we neglect the plans that we've already put in place, that would be a mistake. So biggest challenge for, again, Ward 1 are similar challenges for the city: economic development, housing. But there's this other sort of thing that I've learned about along Ward 1, which Ward 5 is, I believe, a little higher ground actually than Ward 1 is. And Ward 1 has an issue of things like flooding, which, being from Cambridge, it's been an issue for a long time, but it's definitely a little more noticeable, particularly with the beautiful harvest moon we've had. And if you participated or saw Iron Man and Eagle Man when it happened in October, they were running through streets of water. All that said, the good news is there is FEMA money available. There's a lot of money flowing from the federal government now is for flood mitigation and planning for whether the land's sinking or the water's rising. It doesn't need to be a philosophical discussion. Something is going on, and Cambridge being built right on the water and that being our most valuable asset, that's something in Ward 1 that there really needs to be some progressive thought around. And I think, Sailwinds is our start, but to connect the public to the water all the way along the edge of Ward 1 and into the other neighborhoods, so that everyone in the city has safe access to the water, and that we're not subject to dangerous flooding, and that that basically the stormwater is handled correctly, and that we're beautifying our waterfront and giving our public access to it. It's really going to go a long way in the water being everyone in the towns and everyone having access to it, and helping spur investment in our neighborhoods. So.
Thank you so much. Lot of good responses, and I got to tell you all, I know when we start these conversations that they can tend to go a lot longer than an hour. And I'm going to be honest, I keep looking down because my inbox is flooding, my email is flooding at this time. So it's wonderful we have community engagement. I promise I'm going to try to get to as many questions as we can. That being said, for our panelists, we are going to have to actually go to 2 minutes or less than some of these responses. I know Chad is like, whoa, 2 minutes? So I actually had a question to come in, and I want to go like back and forth from the ones that were emailed to the ones that are coming in. One question, she said, I have a question. I hear a lot of things about what's to come for the city that would benefit it for tourism boosts. What are the plans for the actual citizens who live here to make the city better for them, not just tourism? So at this time, I guess we'll start with Ms. Sharon. I mean, of course, this is definitely a concern. We want to make it attractive for other people to come, but at the same time, we cannot forget about those individuals that are previously residing in the city. So Ms. Sharon, at this time, 2 minutes or less.
Okay, thank you. I really think we should start with housing. That definitely affects the quality of life for people who live here, whether it's someone who's living in a substandard house or whether it's someone who lives in the neighborhood that has blighted housing. It affects all of us. And there are immediate things we can do about that. We have blighted housing for 3 reasons. One is property owners, largely landlords, ignore the codes and don't maintain their properties well. not everyone, but a fair number of them, we all see the blighted properties around the city, and blight exists in all 5 wards, not just in 1 or 2. The second thing is the council has consistently understaffed the code enforcement function. And if we're going to turn things around, we definitely need to have another code enforcement inspection person. And number 3 is we need a mechanism to make the property owners force them to maintain their properties. And I am in favor of a type of receivership called a land bank, which Maryland will allow us to establish. And what that does is it allows the city to actually take ownership of blighted properties once they have multiple citations against them. And we then would fix up the properties and sell them. And the original owner is paid the value of the property when it's taken over. But a lot of these houses are valued at $10,000 and $20,000, not at millions. I think once landlords that aren't maintaining their properties see that the city is serious about maintaining properties, I think they'll fall in line. Cambridge Association of Neighborhoods, CAN, last year did a study of some of the citation backlog, and there were 1,760 open citations. The minimum fine is $100. That's $176,000 we could start pulling in now if we start taking them to court. And you can't send a junior level staff to court. We need to be using our attorneys or our department heads.
Thank you. So, of course, we know that process within itself is one that could take a lot more time in certain terms of discussion, because when we talk about citation of $100 and then taking and pursuing it in court, the court fees could be just as much as the citation. So then that's a whole nother concern. So, Mr. Roche, what are your thoughts about the tourism?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to clarify that when I talk about redeveloping the waterfront and providing access to the waterfront, I think of things like Long Wharf Park and Great Marsh Park and what will be Salewinds Park that aren't just Ward 1s. Spend 5 minutes there, which I spend a lot of time in these areas. It's for all the citizens' benefit. It is not for tourists. The reason that we want to attract investment here is to be able to have money to make the lives better of people that live here. End of story. That is our primary concern, and that's what our focus is. So I didn't want to misconstrue that and think that I just think, oh, we just need to attract all new people. No, the idea is to actually bring money in the community so we can make all of our lives better here, so that we have the ability to pay a code enforcement officer, that we have the ability to think creatively, that we have the ability to buy homes and put them in a land bank and then offer them under conditions to people that want to purchase their first home. I think one of the things we could do is if we're at 60% rentals, the city, it would be nice for them to say, you know what, this year we're going to figure out some way to knock that down by 10%. And get creative. Set the goal. We've got to set the goal, and then we attempt to get there. But that's the kind of stuff that I really would love to focus on. Is just start setting goals, start setting the accomplishments that we all want, and get there. So I think that answered the question. I don't even remember what the question.
The question was, we talk a lot about attracting tourists, and what about the ones that are already here? What are we going to do in order to make sure we take care of home and make sure those individuals that have been here, how are we going to engage them and make sure we have things here for the citizens that are currently residing here? So yeah, I think you answered it as well.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Malkus.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't want to ever discount tourism as such an important component here in the county, and a lot of our jobs that we have, be it through the Hyatt, be it through the restaurant industry in our downtown, are very tourism dependent. If you talk with with people that work at the Hyatt and those in charge, you'll find that they struggle a lot with our current workforce and just having people show up on time to work. There are certainly other things that we can do. Unfortunately, as a city council, we don't have a lot of control over the, or really any control over the school budget. Obviously, that's a county issue, but we certainly can be proactive and encouraging the council to do everything possible to really focus on workforce level training. We have an amazing career and technology center that does focus a lot in hospitality industry, and there's a lot of great jobs that are to be had within that industry. Now, setting that aside, there's other reasons that businesses look to locate within a community. One of the primary things that they look at is the school system. Another thing that they look at is quality of life, and we've talked a lot about those type of initiatives with the waterfront redevelopment, that sort of thing. All of that, all of those are components to attracting more businesses to relocate or locate within this community. One of the actual advantages of COVID and what people have learned is that they don't necessarily have to work in an office in a big city anymore, or they are not looking for the big office spaces anymore. There's opportunities to be had that I think we can, with some of these changes that have occurred within society, to really focus on bringing and raising people up within this community and doing our best to, as Mr. Roche indicated, with improving the housing, improving our neighborhoods so that it can be a wonderful place to live and a great place for people to raise a family. And all of that leads to a better city and better job opportunities for the people that work here.
Thank you. One question Ms. Wong has asked, what does each candidate feel about reinstating Ordinance 995 or something similar? And I'll just tell you that the ordinance is to call for inspections before a house is rented. And the inspected at least, or the inspection is at least once every 2 to 3 years. What are your thoughts about that? And again, because of our time and all the questions we have, we just want to go 2 minutes or less. So Mr. Malkus, I know you're already unmuted, so we'll just start with you.
So it would be related to inspecting houses prior to them being rented. You know, I think in a larger issue, what we really need to look at is are we incentivizing property owners to do the right thing, and are we disincentivizing the bad property owners to stop doing the bad things? And I think that is important. You know, we'd have to obviously look at the budget and what we are capable of doing as far as that ordinance specifically, and if we have the manpower for something like that. But the overarching issue of better housing, better quality housing, and making sure that these rentals are not the they have been terrible in the past, and we really have a lot of bad apples that are making the good landlords also look bad. And I think it's really important to make sure that everybody is on a level playing field and that they are all held to the same standards.
Thank you. Miss Sharon, let me unmute. There you go.
Thank you. I'll actually answer your question. Yes, I believe there should be exterior and interior inspections of rental properties, at the very least when it turns over. I think there are probably some long-term rentals that don't get inspected and that are in very poor condition. So I think some work needs to be done to figure out how often to do it. But increased inspections is definitely called for, given the dire situation we're in as far as housing is concerned.
Mr. Roche?
Oh, I unmuted when you unmuted. Yes, 100%. I really do think that inspections or some form of quality control for our housing is very important and should be reinstated in one form. My concern is that it was passed and it got repealed. I think we have to understand why that was. Was it a budgetary problem? Was it just lack of political will? Is there some sort of momentum in the landlord community that we don't know about that has the ability to get things repealed? I don't know, but it absolutely is critical to know what kind of housing we have. And one of the best things about running for office is you walk door to door to door, and you really do see the variety of housing and the conditions. And I've even a few times said, so what do you think about your landlord? And you can hear a pin drop. You can hear a pin drop. And there's one thing that people have mentioned is they shouldn't be afraid to come to the city with concerns. They shouldn't be fearful of actually speaking out if there are issues that need to be addressed. And it's not as simple as just legislating good housing. Unfortunately, it will take incentivizing landlords to fix up their properties. And one thing we don't want to do is we don't want to penalize or raise costs on people that are actually doing a good job. Because if they're doing a good job, we want to actually make it cheaper for them to continue to do a good job and easier to do a good job. But if you're not doing a good job, it should be cumbersome and expensive. And if negligence is your problem, then you probably should be in a different business. And we need to figure out a way to basically kick out the bad actors and embrace the good actors. So yes, in some form we need to do that, but we need to make sure it's successful this time.
Accountability. Thank you, Mr. Roche. I agree. I will tell you that I was going to city council meetings when they were talking about raising property taxes. I am a homeowner. So when we talk about taking care of home, taking care of our own. Yes, I agree. Let's attract more people to Cambridge, but we have to deal with the unresolved that lies within the city prior to attracting individuals to our city, and one of which is definitely a housing issue. I mean, if I have to pay property taxes on my home, and my home is property taxes are going to be raised because other homeowners are not taking accountability, ensuring. However, this isn't about me. This is about community. But I will tell you that that is definitely one of the reasons why we have this platform, because what typically happens is property taxes go up, and that affects our escrow accounts, and we see an increase in our mortgage statement. And the first thing that most people do is call the mortgage statement and say, well, you didn't tell me that I was going to have to pay $40 more a month in my mortgage. But they don't know that this is a result of the increase of taxes that has taken place in their local assembly. So I'm not going to go there. However, we do need that accountability. We need it in our city, because ultimately, I don't personally believe that we should be incentivizing homeowners to take care of what's theirs. That's just me personally, but I do believe that we need to have measures in place to hold homeowners accountable for how their property is maintained if they're going to be renting their properties. And that's no ill will to any one person, but it's just what it is. Anyway, so I guess to our next question, I want to read this comment because it was submitted a few weeks ago. This person submitted this comment and question by email. She says, it is my understanding that CWDI wants to push a vote in the next city commissioner meeting on October the 13th at 6 p.m. What I have heard is that CWDI wants an executive session at 5 p.m. to go over the terms of the MOU with the commissioners, and then once a vote from city during the 6 p.m. meeting. If they proceed as they always have, there will be no details for the city to review with adequate time ahead of the meeting, and certainly no opportunity at all for the public, in all capitals, to review. The public won't know what's in the terms until after the vote, when it is released, because it'll be done in the executive session. It's too late then for any public questions or concerns. Do you agree with all future CDWI decisions do you agree that all future CWDI decisions should wait until after the newly elected officials have taken office? Please explain your answer. So I guess we'll start with Mr. Malkus. And I know we are running down on time, and I do have a couple other questions. So if you would, do you agree that we should wait until newly elected offices officials are in?
Well, I'm going to make sure to answer the question as directly as possible, since Sharon implied I didn't answer the last question directly as possible. You know, it's a long time between now and December, actually, when we get sworn in. And this council, many of them on the council have been working on this issue, and the mayor has been intimately involved in this issue for many years. I don't, you know, closed door sessions, they always are scary to people. And I think the MOU, as I understand it, is in the furtherance of either a continuance of what they are doing, or potentially empowering them to make more decisions as far as relating to bringing in potential development. Now, when you have an organization like that, when you have any sort of development corporation or quasi-governmental development corporation that works within the city, they're only empowered so much, but they have to be empowered somewhat to at least encourage the development and to go out and seek out and speak effectively on behalf of the city. That's why there's city representatives, city appointed representatives on there. They've been on there for some time. That's why there's also members from the Salewinds board on there. So they have to be given some power in order to attract developers. The city itself cannot go out and bring those developers in. That's not something that they would be able to do or have the time to do. That is why that CWDI was formed in the first place. So they have to be empowered in some way. As far as waiting, we've been waiting for 20, 25 years. I'm not in favor of waiting just for the sake of new blood coming in, because what I've actually seen when new councils have come in is that everybody has to get caught up to speed and they have to go back to square one. We're not at square one anymore. We've had plans sitting on the shelf for many, many years. Everything can be looked through the lens of those plans that we have that have all had public input and that sort of thing. If it's not zoned for a business to be there, such as a long-term care facility, if the zoning does not support it, it shouldn't be there. That's something we all voted on and support and supported zoning changes for as part of the comprehensive plan and as part of the waterfront development initiative. So we need to empower them. We need to allow them to have some stake in the game, because that's what they're there for. That's what they were created for. But I don't believe it's suddenly just turning over the keys to the car and watching the teenager go away. It's not drive away. It's not similar in that sense.
Thank you so much. So, you know, there's a couple of different things that came to my mind, not really informed or up to speed with the process of actually how a person would be a part of the CWDI, and, you know, what was the process for selecting members to be a part of that particular committee. However, from what I'm gathering from what you're saying, Mr. Malkus, is that there's been continuous conversation about what was going to be happening with that particular location. And, you know, there's plenty of time for public to provide input during those various sessions. So trying to wait until new council come on it really is not something that you would necessarily support. Is that correct?
That's back to me. Yes, that's correct. I would not support just waiting for the sake of waiting for a new council to come in.
Okay.
You know, that would imply that, you know, look, our city council, yes, there's been a lot of frustration with some, but, you know, I'll speak for my ward, and my commissioner, Robbie Hansen, has been intimately involved in this process. And he has strong views about it. And he's a very smart man that has looked at this issue for the better part of his career. And so I don't want to in any way imply that let the new kids come in and do that. So I would still support them, at least at this point, as they understand the issues. They're the ones with the most understanding of it at this point, because they've been dealing with it for many, many years. And there's, this stuff will not happen in a vacuum. So we will certainly have the opportunity, further inputs, further decisions. If there's any request for a zoning change, such as that because of timing, that would not take place until the new council is sworn in. That's sort of how zoning issues work, and it takes some time. So, there's some issues that are not going to see the light of day until after the new council is sworn in.
Thank you so much. I know Miss Sharon is like, let me jump in here. Let me jump in here. I need to get in here. So I guess, we'll hear from Miss Sharon. I actually want to, again, kind of bring it back. I gave Mr. Malkus a little bit more time to speak to that specifically, because I know it is came from Ward 5 specifically, but I do want to hear from, of course, the candidates in Ward 1 as well. So Miss Sharon, at this time.
Well, Sale Winds, as you've implied, is the #1 economic development opportunity for the whole city, not just for Ward 5. And it truly is a citywide decision, I believe. First of all, Robbie Hanson, the incumbent council person from Ward 5, voted against, 2 or 3 sessions ago, voted against moving forward the MOU. There were 2 votes against it, and Robbie Hanson's was one of them. So I think that's something to be listened to. I don't think that the vote should wait for the new council, but I do think the vote should wait for public input. This is a perfect example of lack of transparency on the part of the council. They hold closed sessions supposedly for 2 reasons. One is for a personnel issue, which I think is understandable. That's a private matter between an employee and an employer. But the second one is financial decisions. What is more important to hold in the public eye than financial decisions? It's our money. I think that financial decisions, by and large, should not be made behind closed doors. And a lot of the CWDI communication hasn't been with the public. It's been only with the city council in closed session. And I am against that. I think it should be an open session that involves public participation.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sharon. Mr. Roche?
I think about, as we're doing this, that this is so transparent, that comments are coming through. We can respond to comments. You can bring things up that are happening. And what's a little sad is how difficult it has been for our council and our commissions to replicate something as simple as this. If you've been on any other board or in any engagement, I mean, this is definitely something that should be happening. And I'm worried that some people may take advantage of a pandemic and make decisions like this, because it's really hard, when you have to leave a voicemail to give your input, even if it was a public forum right now. The voicemail might be full by the time you get your comment in. And I've seen that happen already. So from a timing standpoint, that's one thing we should consider. If they can't get this public input straight right now, how do they even get comment? So that's something that concerns me a little bit, no matter what the decision is right now. If there's big decisions being made, they are potentially being made without adequate input, because we have the ability to have better input than we've ever had with things like StreamYard and YouTube and Facebook. I mean, we should have it all out there, and people should be able to just blast comments, and they should be vetted and filtered, and everybody should be able to see them. So that's an aside. But one other piece that's always bothered me is that, obviously, if I get on the council, I'm going to be excited that I get to be a part of the decision and I get to represent my constituents and what they want at the time. But let's say I'm not on the council, or there's someone that has different ideas about whether this should be a completely public and transparent process, or whether they have their own ideas that they don't like what's going on at Salewinds and they want to change it up completely. I think that's been a problem in the past when things just kind of change back and forth. But the good news is, the community in many ways has already said what they want that property to be. And I think what's very important is that as a council, as a city manager, as CWDI, and as citizenry, we need to make sure that we follow the plan that we put out there. Like literally, I remember hundreds and hundreds of people from representation of the community gave input into what they wanted Salewinds to be. And CWDI shouldn't be able to make a decision that doesn't follow what the community said they wanted there. End of story. So we shouldn't have to worry about that. We should literally have our council and our city manager and CWI working in the interests of what that plan says. And we wouldn't have to worry about it being zoned for a long-term memory care facility, because that wasn't even on the radar at the time. People said what they wanted there, and I can assure you that it wasn't rezoning the property for something like that. So I would like to hope there's a mechanism in place where it's like, who watches the watchman? You know, it's like, how much more confidence would we have in our government if we knew that they couldn't make a decision based on the way the wind was blowing that day? They had to make a decision that fell into what the public had said they wanted. So whether that decision happens now or then, one, I have a problem with the inability to even get proper input right now, which is a separate matter. But yeah, even if it is made, I think we need to work hard as a council, and our current council. I would like to task them and our city manager and call CWDI out to say, don't you dare make a decision that goes against these plans.
Absolutely.
Period.
So I appreciate the feedback. And like I said, you know, of course, given 2 minutes, sometimes it's hard to answer questions 2 minutes or less, because it's, you know, definitely something when you're passionate about community, you want to see what's going to be done, that whatever is going to be done is going to be done with the best interest for our community as a whole. So I know we are wrapping down on time, and I try to stay within the hour. So if you would give me an extended 5 minutes, this is Candid Crucial Community Conversations, and we have to be very transparent as we have been thus far. A lot of issues in the city of Cambridge, in Dorchester County, and we know it to be so, is that we are so racially divided. Since the pandemic, since this whole Black Lives Matter movement has been going on, not just in the city of Cambridge, but nationally, one question came in and it says, the Black Lives Matter movement has been a hot button issue locally, nationally, and globally, with the Cambridge community split on the Black Lives Matter mural on Ray Street. Some have called for the removal of the mural once the new administration is put in place. Would you support the removal of the mural? Why or why not? And I guess we'll start with Mr. Roche, just kind of going backwards.
I think that mural is fantastic. And I honestly, what I love most about it is that Cambridge was one of the first cities to do that. The people that came out to paint that mural were people that I had never seen in any other, a lot of the same people that are very active, but a lot of people that just honestly came out because they were excited to celebrate something that they cared about. And it goes back to the idea of placemaking. The fact is, painting that right where it was, right next to the Harriet Tubman mural that became a global sensation. I mean, Cambridge has such a unique story that we need to tell, and we need to get out there, and we shouldn't be hiding it. We literally need to celebrate it and tell it raw and tell it well. And I can tell you that our story is unique. And all of these projects, from Salewinds to Cannery Park, to the Packing House, to the Maces Lane Community Center, all these things are things that will let us tell our story and tell it well and make us be proud of our community and literally move forward better and faster than any other city in the country. We have such a great story, and we needn't let anything like that hold us back. And I thought it was wonderful. And the more people we can get engaged, the more people that we can tell our story to, and the more people that we can get excited about Cambridge, the better. So it was fantastic, and so much energy revolved around that, all positive in my mind. If there's a small segment of people that think it needs to be removed, there's no doubt that they are way, you want to talk about minority, they are in the minority, because it was fantastic. And
Thank
so many
you.
people have been excited about it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Ms. Sharon, let me, okay, Ms. Sharon?
I absolutely agree with Brian. There's no way do I think that the murals should be removed. We've gotten very positive national attention, and I think it's been very meaningful to the people here who live in Cambridge. And I think that that mural is a real treasure, and
Thank you so
it
much, Ms.
should
Sharon.
stay here.
Chad?
Absolutely, it should remain. When it fades a little bit, we should touch it up again. There's absolutely no reason why it should be removed. You know, I serve on a national diversity and inclusion council for the banking corporation that I work for, and one of the things that we talk about all the time is having those honest, open, and raw conversations that Brian indicated. That it is important, it is so important to have those discussions. And Cambridge has a great story to tell that has a lot of really, really difficult chapters. But the important thing is that if we are all able to move forward together, have those conversations, we are Groove City. And that is something to be celebrated and shared. And it is something that we, as part of Main Street, we worked very hard to be as inclusive and as open as possible, and that is something that absolutely needs to continue. That Black Lives Matter mural is right next to the Harriet Tubman mural that has just brought people from all over the world. You can sit at the bakery and you can meet somebody from the Philippines that is seen that because of it getting such international attention, and that's something to be treasured and shared. So we should absolutely keep it and do more things that encourage those open conversations.
Absolutely. Thank you. I mean, I think we can all agree that we don't have enough candid, crucial community conversations, right? We can acknowledge that there is an elephant in the room, but no one really wants to say it. And I'll be honest, for me, I am very passionate about unity and engagement and really saying, you know, and understanding we have our differences, but we have more things in terms of our creativity that we can bring to the table to work on the common good of things to continue to move us forward. We could go on and on. I do have a whole lot of other questions, and I want to apologize to community that did not hear their question asked. But of course, just being mindful of the viewers' time as well as our panelists. I just want to again say thank you all for supporting. Next Sunday, our mayor panel will be next Sunday, and I'm sure if you haven't, I mean, I've already received a host of questions for the mayor, a host of questions. They are small, but they are definitely coming in. A whole lot of different things coming in for the mayor candidate, the mayor panel. So if you haven't sent in questions that you would like asked for that panel, please send them in. I would definitely appreciate if we can continue even once the new elected officials are announced, that we could come back and we can have another discussion, because it's needed. Like Brian said, I mean, it's nothing wrong with continuing to have these discussions. I know, as Ms. Sharon indicated, that personnel issues are things that you won't be able to discuss publicly. However, it's important for us to engage community, and it's going to continue to take conversations like this in order for us to come together to actually understand what keeps us divided, to continue to bring that unity back into our community. There's so many other things that are going through my mind at this time, but we don't have the time for that tonight. So at this time, I actually want to come back to each of you to give you the opportunity to give your closing remarks as we wrap up tonight. I also want to say to each of you, I really do appreciate the respect that you have had for one another tonight, as well as the individuals that are serving on our council. It's easy in politics, we see it all the time, to kind of, slay the person that we are running against. And of course, one of the things that we got to get back to is really understanding that regardless as to who is elected, how can we support the person that is elected, as well as to prepare to continue to move Cambridge forward. So at this time, Mr. Malkus, I'm going to allow you this time. I'm going to say to you, thank you, because a lot of times when people run unopposed, they automatically feel, I got this election in the bag. So I want to say thank you to your servantship to the city of Cambridge, and as well as to you just taking on the mantle to run for Ward 5 and still being visible, running unopposed. So I want to say thank you to you for accepting the invitation. As soon as I reached out, you're like, sure, when do you want me to show up? So thank you, not just to you, but to each of you for taking this time with us tonight. So this time, Mr. Malkus.
Well, I appreciate it, and I've never had a problem talking. So I appreciated the opportunity to meet and to talk. And Che, I hope in the future, I am lucky enough to have been unopposed. So when I had the opportunity to be on the council, I really hope you'll have as many council members as possible come on and have these conversations so that people can share their ideas and share their thoughts and their questions, so that they can not everybody can attend a city council meeting. Not everybody can tune in and stream it. And we certainly want to have the opportunity for people to ask those questions. I really just greatly appreciate the time. I'm really looking forward to serving the city of Cambridge. And I think we have a great and bright future ahead. I've always been an optimistic person, and I've always been optimistic about Cambridge. I have some friends that I went to college with down in South Carolina, and they're like, why do you keep talking about that little town up in Maryland? Why do you keep talking about that? We value it and we treasure it. And those of us from here really want to, we've gotten to a point where we just are ready to move it forward, and now is the time to do that. And I hope that everyone out there listening will go to my website, chadmalkus.com, stay up to date on what we are doing and what we are looking to do for the city. And any questions that you have, please ask. And any concerns that you have, please ask, not only just to the people of Ward 5, but to people in the city. We all want to move forward. My motto is move Cambridge forward, but if I could have chosen another motto, it would be one Cambridge, because I think that is really what we are looking for, is that type of unity to move to the next chapter for this town. Thank you again.
Thank you. And as they are sharing their contact information, I'll put it in the comments and pin it for anyone that's taking notes. I do want to go back and read some of the comments really quick before I come to Brian and Ms. Sharon. You had Ms. Lynette said, the public should help decide what happens to any project that large in Cambridge. Mr. Hanson, Robbie and Kathy Hanson says, absolutely, Brian. Miss Christine, she says, thank you, Brian. Miss Lynette says, global. And I guess that was when we were talking about the Black Lives Matter mural. Miss Richardson says, thank you, Brian. The mural brought people together to make a statement. Miss King just put the love emoji. Mr. Robbie and Kathy Hanson says, well done to all three candidates. And of course, we have everyone is accountable. So at this time, let's see. As a resident of Ward 1, I appreciated this evening's dialogue. Thank you to all who participated. So that's Miss Stanley in Ward 1. So at this time, back to our candidates. Miss Sharon.
Thank you. I think the key issue before the voters this time is changing the way the city council operates and where their focus is placed. It's been too down in the weeds, and it hasn't been forward looking. They don't have a shared vision of where the city should go and how to get there. and I'm experienced at helping organizations operate strategically. So I think I'm the best candidate to fundamentally change the way the city council operates. It's not about which project that we want is our favorite, or whether we work on this one or that one. It's about changing the way the council operates. You can read more about my thoughts at sharonsmithforward1.com. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you, Shay, for hosting the event.
Sharon Smith at Forward One. Is that spelled out FOR or the number 4?
FORWARD, the number 1.com. SharonSmithForward1.com.
So you can reach Miss Sharon at SharonSmithForward1.com. And of course, we've seen ChadMalkus.com. Definitely reach out to each of the prospective individuals that you have additional questions for, or you would like additional input.
You've switched the 1 and the ward.
Correct me.
Thank you.
Sharon Smith or Ward 1, got it, .com.
Thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, Mr. Roche.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you again, Shay. This has been fantastic. I think this forum is amazing, and it just shows what we can do with the right technology and the right people just pushing this. So anyway, it would be an honor to represent the citizens of Ward 1 and all of Cambridge, just to leverage the experience I've gained over the last 15 years doing the projects that I've been involved in and the people I've worked with and the nonprofits and the businesses and the citizens to accomplish what we all want in this city, which is we just want quality of life for our citizens, which is like safer streets, better sidewalks, vibrant businesses, good neighborhoods, and to just see the plans that we've put in place, everything from the Pine Street revitalization, which is just one small step in revitalizing the Pine Street area, Sailwinds, the Packing House, the Maces Lane Community Center, and even Cannery Park, bring those to the finish line and even get the marina going forward, which it is in Ward 1, but it is everyone's marina. Anyway, I will celebrate and embrace our unique history, culture, and the niche economy that we have here in the city, which we've talked about tonight. And I will advocate and cultivate the ambitious citizens, businesses, and even people running for council and organizations that have been and are working towards the shared goals of our citizens. So I would love to represent the citizens of Ward 1, but if I don't, I can guarantee you that I will continue to work as I have been towards these goals. And my website's easy, does not have my name in it. It is togetherwethrivecambridge.com. Thank you.
togetherwethrivecambridge.com. I like that. So as you see in the comments, you definitely have all of their contact information. Please, community, reach out to them. I will tell you, they are very responsive. From the very first time I reached out to each of them, they responded within the hour, and were very open to have conversation about what this platform was, but more importantly, when they were going to actually show up to share their interest and their insight and their vision. So I'm just excited that, you all have taken the time to join us tonight. And with that being said, we are done. So for individuals that were viewing on Facebook, folks that are not on Facebook, you can also find the replay of this conversation on YouTube, as well as we were live on Periscope. So it's just, like you said, Mr. Roche, is extremely phenomenal, the number of platforms that we can use to actually reach a mass number of individuals all at the same time. So I'm forever grateful for StreamYard to be able to host this conversation. I am your host, Shay Speaks, and we just, do these conversations to build and engage community, to actually see unity back into our community, because we know we're stronger as a unit when we are unified together as one. So I'm excited. And again, together we thrive Cambridge, and we are moving forward, as Ms. Sharon said, and Mr. I mean, it's just, I could just kind of go on and on with all of what you all have. So I want to say to the panelists again tonight, good luck and thank you so much. And as Mr. Malkus has said, we're going to be back after the election. So I'm looking forward to actually hosting a conversation with those individuals that will be elected in probably the end of November, so we can get over the presidential election, because we know this is a high climate for it. So for those that have not been tuning into previous broadcasts, we've discussed a host of various things. We've had, voter education panels, community advocates. We've had, of course, the candidates that are running not only for the city council, but also for the Board of Education. So if you've missed those broadcasts, go back, watch those replays, so that you can also know who's who in the community, not just by name, but also to see them live and in color, and also to get their contact information as well. So to each of you all, thank you for the support. Again, to the panelists, thank you for agreeing to this opportunity, and I hope you all have an amazing night.
Yep, thank